Hello, fellow adventurers. Welcome to our channel. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Tony, and we are on a quest to get to all 63 national parks.
Hopefully it stays at 63. When we started this quest, I think there were 60 or 61, and then they just kept adding them, and so we had to expand. So currently there are 63 national parks. Hopefully it stays that way for a while. We, under our belts, have gotten 49 at this point. So we want to share with you how you can get to as many national parks as possible. So what started my thought process on this is I saw that famous PBS National Park special that we've probably all seen if we're interested in the national parks, and I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to go to every national park. And our kids at the time we started thinking about this were about 7 and 10. So really the perfect ages to take on adventures like this out into nature. And once we sat down and had a conversation, a really serious conversation about how I wanted to make this our priority, especially with our kids at the ages they were. I wanted it more than improvements on our house, newer cars, whatever the case may be. I wanted to spend any extra money that we had on making these memories with our family and bonding as a family. So once we had that conversation, we just started doing our research.
We also started having conversations of, if we have 2 weeks of vacation, how far are we going to go? How much time are we going to spend at every park?
So if this sounds like something you want to do, if you want to visit a couple national parks, if you want to visit all the national parks, if you've already seen some, if you haven't had any yet, one thing you want to think of before you get too deep into it is what you want from each national park. As in, like, we bought the national park passports at the very first national park we went to for each of the kids, so that every national park we go to, they can get stamps in their books. It shows the date that you were there, and it shows what park you're at, and there's space in the books for every national park so that they can get stamps at each national park. Another big thing we do, along with lots of other people, is we take pictures in front of each national park sign. Also, our daughter likes to do handstands, so we take a picture of her doing a handstand in front of each sign. So that might be something you want to think about if you have someone in your family that does something unique. Have them do it in front of each national park sign, and it's just a fun memory to have.
Each sign, they know that people are taking pictures there. They have pull-offs either right before or after, where maybe 3 or 4 cars will fit. There are some that have a post where you can put your phone or your camera like a tripod and get a picture, or most of the time you have 2 or 3 other cars that are there, and you'll do a negotiating of, hey, you want us to take your picture? Oh yeah, here, this is good. Hey, do you mind taking our picture?
Yeah, I get excited whenever I see a car already pulled over when we're coming up to the national park sign, because I know there will be somebody there that can take our picture. You could get a mug at each national park, you get a t-shirt, a hat, a keychain, there's all kinds of things. So just decide up front what you'd like to collect from each park, and it's just fun to have that thing from each national park. So not all of our trips are done with a camper. We have been through several types of campers. We've done our drivable Class C, we've done a travel trailer, but some of our trips we have to do by car. It's much quicker to go by car, or we'll have to fly and rent a car and do our trips that way. When you're going from Tennessee to California, we did it in a camper, but we also did it by plane.
Some of us drove the camper out. Others flew out and met us in San Francisco. We won't say who did what.
So one of the biggest money-saving tips if you plan to visit more than a few national parks in 1 year is to go ahead and buy the National Park Pass. It's called the America the Beautiful Pass. It's $80. You can purchase it at the very first park you go to. You can get it online, but I think they tack on an extra $5. Don't worry about it. Just buy it at the first national park you come to. They all sell them. And then that will get you into all the national parks, national monuments, all the national things for the next year.
And it's not a calendar year. If you buy it on the 15th of June, it's good until the 14th of June the next year.
I think it's good all the way through June.
Oh.
So June through June.
Even
till
better.
the next year. And then here's another tip. If you have a 4th grader, you get a free one that year.
Our first year, we had a 4th grader. We got the park pass. I think it's very important that you keep track of the park pass. We went on our 2-week trip, and then before that pass expired, we went on another trip to some national parks and couldn't find the national
Couldn't find it.
park.
So we
Pass.
donated an extra $80 to the national parks that year.
Keep it close.
So something else fun that each national park does that we started with our very first one when the kids were 8 and 10, somewhere in there, is the Junior Ranger program. So they have activity books at every national park that the kids can do. They're age appropriate. So if you have a littler one, they do less activities, and then the older kids do more activities within the book. And then they turn the book in at the end of your visit, and you get a little badge, like a pin that they can pin on. One thing I like to do, not all the national parks do it, but a lot of them do. If you get on their website before you even leave for your trip, you can print out the activity book, and then that way they can get a lot of the activities done on the way there.
When we were traveling, they would fill out and answer some of the questions, but if there was information that they had to have by being at the park, they didn't know the answers, then we would have to accomplish those. Now, when she says age specific, your 8-year-old may have to complete 3 pages in the book, where a 12-year-old may have to complete 5 or 6 pages. And then when you turn that book back in, they have a swearing in process where a ranger will have, please repeat after me, raise your right hand, and do you solemnly swear to protect the national parks and
Clean
preserve
up your litter, don't litter. You know,
Yeah.
it's a whole
A really
cute
neat
little,
program.
Yeah.
And it's neat to get pictures and videos of it.
yeah. And then a lot of times, in order to earn your badge, one of the activities may include attending a ranger talk. And I would recommend doing that whether you have kids or not, whether you're trying to get a junior ranger badge or not. Anytime you can get to a ranger talk, they're very interesting and fun to attend.
If not a in-person ranger talk, they have videos at most of the national parks. So they may be 20, 30 minutes of your time. And one of the things that we enjoyed was they were air conditioned, and it was the summertime when we were in a lot of the desert parks, and it was a nice reprieve to get out of the heat.
It was nice, and then you kind of know, if you watch the video before you even go into the park, what you're doing, like what to expect, what kind of animals to look for, what kind of plants to look for, things like that. So there's a difference between national parks, and then there's national monuments, there's national seashores, there's national preserves, there's national tons of things. There's hundreds of national areas that you can go to. We're talking about just the biggies, the big 63 national parks. So one of the first things I do when we're planning these trips, because we're from Tennessee and a lot of the parks are on the other side of the country, I just jump straight on Google Maps and start Google mapping out what the trip is gonna look like. We try and get to the ones that are close to each other. And so my very first thing is to figure out how much time it's gonna take to get to the first park we wanna go to, and then how long it's gonna take to get to each one in between. So after you Google map everything out and kind of map out what your adventure is gonna look like, jump on the national park website for each park that you plan to visit. A lot of parks have things that need to be reserved, and they need to be reserved pretty well in advance. If you're a last minute kind of person, then you'll just have to roll with what you get. But if you're like me and you like to plan your adventure almost a year in advance, then you can jump on those reservations and get the good stuff.
I think she has more fun planning a lot of our trips than actually going on them.
That's true. I have a ton of fun planning our trips. And then after that, guess where else you want to go get information from? YouTube, which you already know that because you're here on YouTube trying to research your trip. So the point of our video series is to inspire you to get out there and go make your own memories, go on your own adventures. In our next video, we're going to talk about the Great Sand Dunes. The Great Sand Dunes was our very first national park, other than the one that's in our backyard, which is Smoky Mountain National Park. but we've been to that one a million times. We'll talk about it, but in our next video, we're gonna talk about the Great Sand Dunes.